Hi, Meg.
Hello, everybody.
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well, everyone.
So I have 3:30 on the dot. Are we okay to start? IT guy, girl, sorry.
We're good.
We're good? Okay. Welcome, everybody. This is the monthly meeting of the Home and Community Care Block Grant Committee. I'd just like to bring your attention to the agenda. And our first agenda item is to welcome a new member. And I will turn it over to Cindy and let her pronounce her name because I'm not going to be able to do it correctly.
Actually, it's very easy. It's very easy, actually. It's Threl Keld, so it's pronounced just like it's spelled. And yeah, it's good to become a part of the committee. I appreciate the work you do, and I'm anxious to be a part of it.
And your background, just briefly?
Sure. Yeah, my first career was in aging and long-term care. I worked. I've got a master's in gerontology, and I worked in a community-based organization as a care manager, basically doing case management for people living in the community that needed care, like home-delivered meals and home health aides and public health nursing and daycare, those sorts of services. So I'm familiar with the sort of services, but it's been a while since I've been a part of this field, so I'm anxious to get back into it. I'll be retiring from my job right now. I'm the executive director of Literacy Together, and I will be retiring in May. So this is one of the things that I'd like to devote my time to.
Well, we appreciate that. That's an excellent background. And what I would like to do is, since we have a couple of tough decisions to make today on funding for FY24 and the reallocation of 23 funding, I'll take a pause on letting everybody introduce themselves to the end if we have time. And then if we don't have time, then we will, that's definitely on our May agenda.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, next agenda item is revise or approve the agenda. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Very good. All in favor? Raise your hand. Yay. All right, unanimously approved. All right, going on to Billy's excellent meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
All in favor, raise your hand. Any opposition? Nope, doesn't look like it. Okay. Now, Jen, I don't know if you have the ability to put the schedule up, the one that has the agency program. This one, do you have that one to put up on the screen, or somebody?
I'm getting it done.
That sounds like my, oh, Zach, you're beautiful.
Yes. Awesome.
So this is the result of all of our hard work over the last 2 months. We read all the grants, we gave our recommendations, and the total column is the average of all the recommendations from all of the committee members. And if you will look at the bottom, we have $717.88 to allocate to someone. In addition, I'd like to have a little discussion on the Buncombe County Success Project. Is, if you can look up, let's see. Oh, stop. Thank you, Zach. So it's kind of at the bottom of the screen. You can see that we've only allocated. That's okay. You're good. You're good, as always. As you can see, we're at 23%. And to stand up a new program, do people feel that's enough for a start?
Can someone refresh my memory as to their budget and what they were putting in for this and what the total budget of the program was?
Ooh.
I mean, I could dig down, but
I'll pull that up, Meg. I know that they were requesting $6,000. I do believe it was a new program. I believe there were 2 members who recommended funding, which is why we got to that $1,375. And I'll pull up their application to see more about their budget.
oh, thank you. I was reading this wrong. What's in bold is what they requested. What's in the next column is what we're giving.
Yes, apologies for
you.
that. Yeah.
Oh, I apologize, Meg. I didn't make that clear.
No, it's me. That's okay. I looked at it earlier today. I should have noted that, but okay.
So the question becomes, do we award that amount of money, or do we say, let's not award it this year, allocate it to somebody else, and then have them, if they feel they can stand up that project next year, to apply for it next year? Any feedback?
Let's see. Council on Aging. I'm just wondering, instead of giving it to anybody else, if we should say no to this request, but give it to Council on Aging for another program. Personally, I'm concerned about, 23% of their, I don't know, it's.
I would like to see it stay with Council on Aging myself. Of course, I have a soft spot for them, and I definitely would like to see them succeed in the change that's going to happen over the summer. And I'd like to see that they have adequate funding to make everything be a smooth transition. So if that would be possible, I think that would be a great idea myself.
Well, that is possible. It's up to the committee to make that decision.
Okay,
So,
good.
But do we also need to get some input from them about where that money would be, where they would like to request that money?
No, I wouldn't get any additional information from Council on Aging at this point. My recommendation would be that this committee make the decision to reallocate or to allocate, because no funding has been allocated yet since this is next year's budget. So you all have the discretion to where you want to move that 1375. And if you want to keep it in this line item, you definitely can. But again, only 2 members out of 8 voted to give any funding to this project. They're above, so Council on Aging is receiving or currently set to receive funding in both information and options counseling. They are set to receive funding in congregate nutrition, which I believe is on up. And I believe those are the 2 program areas they're set to receive funding for this coming fiscal year. So congregate dining and INO. So if you all would like to move that money, though, and still go to Council on Aging, you would have those 2 program areas, or you could continue to keep it in success fund.
Okay, am I correct in recalling that was for I guess you would call it professional transition planning, more or less, organizational development, that kind of thing?
It appears to be to assist Council on Aging with resource coordination and implementation of outreach for those with accessibility challenges that include language access, physical mobility, vision, and hearing impairment.
All right, okay. I was remembering that wrong.
And their INO program, just as a quick side note, is that also resource coordination. So they've stated in their application to expand and support the resource coordination program.
If we move the money into INO, it would cover some of the same service that Success would have covered. So that seems to be the easiest move there. I agree, 23% of what they requested is not enough to get a new program off the ground.
Right.
I found the description of it a bit vague and was confused between that and the I&O. It wasn't clear how it was doing something different or adding value in a segregated way, so to speak.
So I move that we move that amount of money into the Council of Aging's request for I&O.
Second,
I sec,
Rebecca thirds.
Zach, I'm gonna send you, I have a spreadsheet with all of this so that you can make the changes so they can see it on the screen.
Okay.
So I'll send this to you right now. I made the changes regarding this program, but just so that when you all go to make the vote, you'll have exactly what you're actually recommending. So let me do that now. And so I believe the only other portion is that 717 that was still at the bottom to allocate.
Jen, the BCHHS up at the top, that is for the in-home aid program, right? That doesn't have a, where are we with respect to finding an agency to deliver the service? Has one popped up yet?
Susan, you're muted.
I'm muted?
Susan is.
I am, because I had the phone ringing. Okay, yes. Jen, can you share that?
Yes, so we submitted the RFP. It closed last Friday. We have received 3 applications for providers to run the program, the hands-on pieces of it. Billy, myself, and Ryan Garcia, who's the social worker supervisor that's going to be overseeing this program, are planning to meet next week to review those RFPs, and then we'll be able to identify a provider or numerous providers that will provide the service going forward. So at the May meeting, I can announce who those are. But we did receive 3 applications.
Good, thank you.
And also, just since we're talking about in-home aid, we have just another quick point is we've met with Council on Aging regarding the transition. Zach attended that meeting as well, so Land of Sky's aware of our transition planning, and we feel prepared and ready to be able to transition this program come July 1st. We have staff identified that will be taking over different parts of it to hopefully continue for it to be successful for next year as well.
Maybe we move the $718 to that. In-home aid it's vital. You know, it's a hard service to deliver.
Every little bit counts.
Yeah.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I would second that, Suzanne, because it's just,
Okay.
it's so hard to choose
Yeah.
between any of the others. It's like picking your favorite child. It's just not, it's not going to happen. So, yeah, I think,
The fact that the county's stepping up to do this and it's going to require some extra administration, and, we didn't award them the full amount they requested. So I would move that we move it to the county.
Second.
So am I hearing that the group would like to allocate the $717.88 to in-home aid? Is that what I'm hearing?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody opposed to that? Okay. Well, now that we have met our target of 2.2 million, there must be something, 38 cents. There's got to be some kind of rounding error in there.
That's only because ARMS doesn't do
Oh.
cents.
Okay. Well, we'll work out the 38 cents later. What I can share is as in past years, the true amount of the money that will be sent to Buncombe County for home and community care block grant services is not delivered to the county until after we make these decisions. Which you can hear from my tone that I'm not very happy about it, but that's our reality. So what we have done in the past is we've taken any additional funding and just allocated it to all the providers based on a percentage of the total. So I don't even know if it's going to be the same amount, less money, or more money. But I did want to give the committee members a heads up that, I don't know, maybe come next week. Zach, do you have any idea when the final number will come down to us?
I don't. DOS is working diligently to get that NGA to us, and that's all the information I really have on it.
Yeah. So it may be sometime next week or the week after. You'll be getting another email from the block grant committee folks, and hopefully it'll be good news and we have to allocate some more money, but then that always makes me tear my hair out, because where do you allocate it?
We could
So,
take a proportional approach
mhm.
and say, okay, based on 2.2 million, this is how we were going to distribute it. Figure out the percentages, and if the number that comes through is 2.3 million, say, or whatever, you just do a proportional spread. It's a quick way to do it.
Mhm. And if I remember correctly, that is how we have done it in the past. I'm trying to
Yes.
look at.
Yes, that's how we did it last year.
Mhm. So not to jinx the whole process, I'm not going to make a motion. But when we do get the final number, and hopefully it is more than 2.2 million, then we can bring forward the proportional method, or if any of the other committee members have a different point of view, we can discuss that either via email, or if you want a special Zoom meeting, that would be fine with me. Any comments?
I don't have a comment, Susan, regarding the allocation, but I did just want to make one other point of clarity. So I know that right now this spreadsheet does not show Buncombe County supplemental funds and home and community care block grant funds. It has everything in one lump sum. I did just do a quick calculation on my end, and we have enough. Buncombe County puts in about $500,000 for Buncombe County supplemental aging funds. Not counting in-home aid, it's about $270,000 of request. And so the committee did vote last time to do a percentage of the supplemental aging services funds to be the match for the block grant for in-home aid. And so there will still be some additional funding, like about $180,000. And last year we have just put all of that extra into Council on Aging. I don't mean extra funding as in there's more to allocate, but it's just, where do you want to apply the program to county dollars? And that would be the only question is the committee okay with doing that again, in-home aid, splitting the in-home aid pot, a portion of it being supplemental aging fund, a portion being block grant funds, up to the maxes to ensure that everything equals out.
And Jen, help me remember, that would be the request from the county that the match come out of supplemental aging funds.
Yes. So what I think it would ultimately be is about probably I can pull the numbers and send it to you also. You have exactly what that breakdown is, block grant versus supplemental aging funds. But I think it would end up being about $250,000 is out of county dollars and $222,000 is out of block grant dollars. But it still comes up to the total of $472,750, if not additional monies.
I understand that. Does everybody else, or does anybody have any questions about that?
And maybe it would be helpful, Zach, could we just quickly go down through here and maybe highlight the block grant funded programs in yellow and the Buncombe County supplemental programs in green, just so people kind of are clear again on what that is. So Mountain Mobility's block grant. I've been leaving that one, whatever color, just because it could be both. And then, yeah, that one would be green, you know. Just so that the committee is aware of like which program is going to which pot of money. Again, there's enough to cover all of the supplemental aging funds, which is about $271,000, with the remaining going towards or being put into the in-home aid to just reduce that amount going to block grant. Any questions about this? And I guess day stay in this category would end up being green since they're not licensed yet.
That's right. That's right. I remember.
And this also, just as another aside, it allows day stay to go through the process of getting licensed this year if they need to. And then next year, if they decide to apply again and the committee decided to allocate, then they would be able to apply with block grant funds.
So when Zach finishes his color coding, I want everyone to review their screens and feel comfortable that they are able to vote for and approve this allocation of the funding.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I know I wasn't a part of all the decision-making that led up to this, but I'm concerned about the low amount of money that's going to Mountain Care. I am aware of that program, familiar with that program. It's an essential service and it looks like it's being cut back enough that I wonder if it's even going to affect its viability. So I'd like to know what the thinking was behind reducing that funding so dramatically.
I'm going to pull Cindy just to make sure that so a lot of our providers, and I don't know, I'm going to have to look at Mountain Cares, requested more this year than they had in years past. And so I just want to make sure that that we're not looking at their request versus their allocation. So Mountain Care last year in adult day received $114,000, and in adult day care they received $74,000. So in comparison to this year, they're receiving actually slightly more in both program areas, but it definitely is a reduction over what they've requested. So,
okay, so it's a reduction in their request, not a reduction from what they received in the current year. Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes. However, I do want to share, because thank you for bringing that up. Susan, if you're okay with that, I'd like to just share a little bit more about this transportation piece, because I know Cindy wasn't on our call last time, and I know there was some email questions that came in as well about this. Just as a reminder, the reason that we have two pots of request here from Mountain Care is, as you all recall, Mountain Mobility has not been able to get back up to the pre-COVID transportation offerings to Mountain Care. And so there is a reduction here in the number of transportation dollars for Mountain Care specifically, but they have not been able to use their dollars this year due to the fact that Mountain Mobility has not been able to provide those transportation routes. They did request another application to be able to seek another provider at a different unit rate, which is why they applied through the Supplemental Aging Services Funds. So I think total, they still will end up at about the same amount of money they were receiving last year. Let me just double check to make sure, don't misspeak.
And I did listen to the meeting from last time, the recording. So I do understand why there are two different requests for transportation. So.
Okay. And so this fiscal year, they received $39,000 in funding for transportation. And so actually with both of these requests combined, they'll receive more money for transportation than they did in years past. Hopefully they'll be able to utilize it by finding a partner provider or a partner transportation provider.
This Dan, I had a question, and it reflects what we've been hearing here and that I've been hearing elsewhere in the community, and that is the ongoing struggle to find staff. And we know some of that's related to COVID, but some of it's related to demographic changes that are happening and are going to continue to happen. So my question really is, Jen, to you is, have you heard of communities, counties, or other entities that are taking a proactive approach in trying to reach out? You know, obviously one of the things we've done is make efforts to have competitive wages, but are there other things that have been good, have gotten good results in reaching out to try to help better staff for in-home aids, for other things? And you know, that's probably for Zach as well. I mean, in terms of what's going on statewide. And anyway, it's a broad question, and I just wonder if we know anything about what's going on in that world.
I would say that we are feeling repercussions from COVID across the state of North Carolina. I feel that a lot of programs are falling behind in their utilization of funding, or it's kind of an either or situation. They're either far behind in their utilization of funding, or they are exceeding their available funding, because there was a point in time during the pandemic where copious amounts of funding were funneled into a lot of these programs, so they welcomed new members with open arms, and now they're having to cut back severely on a lot of these programs because we're going back to normal funding. After ARPA funding is done, there has been no mention of any other funding coming our way, so we will be back down to just home and community care block grant funding for a lot of these programs. I also feel that, you know, unfortunately during the COVID-19 pandemic, it affected older adults more than any other population in the state of North Carolina. And so there is a lot of fear still out there in the older adult population that prevents them from going or from seeking services, or there's still those individuals that are afraid to come to congregate sites because they are afraid of contracting COVID-19. So I don't think what we are seeing here in Buncombe County is unique to Buncombe County. I honestly do feel that it is very similar across the state.
Yeah, I would just second that and add a little bit of additional comment. So I lead a tier 2, tier 3 meeting once a quarter, which is all of the larger counties across the state of North Carolina. I lead it specifically around adult protective services, but also all of our adult and aging services programs. And I led it last week, and we were talking specifically about in-home aid. Dan, to all of the points that you've brought up, some communities are successful when they have their own aides in-house. So whenever county government hires their own in-home aides to provide this program specifically, doesn't contract out any other work. We don't currently do that in Buncombe County. In other communities, they are doing that. But in many communities, the way they've tried to address it is by raising their rates. I do know that Mount Care has had some success in the last couple of months of being able to hire some more staff back on. And it may be something that this committee would like to hear from Mountain Care specifically, maybe in a coming meeting, about how they've been able to be successful, but also what challenges they still face. And any other provider, if you all feel like that would be useful. The only other thing I would add too is that many of us aging service providers are a part of the North Carolina Coalition on Aging. And I really can't say enough great things about Heather Burkhart, who is the director of that statewide organization. And they are doing a lot to lift up caregiver needs across the state and continuing to bring that up to legislators. And hopefully we'll start seeing some impacts at the state level as well.
Thanks.
Jen, well, I'm sorry, Dan, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to add one other thing, which is that, we're competing with the other sectors of the economy that pay in the same range. So I think in some ways this is a broader economic issue. And I'm just thinking at some point down the road, I was involved in workforce issues years ago, and job fairs, and there's a whole host of things that one can do, but whether those make sense and whether they yield results is another question. So it sounds like you've got some. I'd love to hear what Mountain Care has done and how they've reached out and learned from them. That's all. Thanks.
Yeah, my question was related to that. And my question is, do we know how the agencies go about hiring in-home aides? Do they run ads? Do they go through word of mouth through their current employees? And I ask because the employment system has become extremely inefficient. In my old field, nepotism has become a bigger issue because you don't have, back in the day, if when you wanted to hire somebody, you ask the people you work with, anybody know anybody who wants a job, blah, blah, blah. I always found, this is old school, but in the New York Times, Sunday business section in the back, if you were looking for professional help that you didn't know personally, that was a wonderful source. But now with the internet, and I hate to tell everybody, but I don't care what you're trying to hire for, but doing it over the internet is usually not the most efficient way to do it. Hence my question, when someone wants to hire in-home aides, where do they go? How do they do that? Is there a typical process, or is it all over the map?
Jen, these are some really interesting questions. With the county hiring 3 new or looking at 3 different providers of in-home aid, maybe that's something that we could learn from them. I'm not quite sure. Are we going to have to approve these folks, or does it go through the county for the approval?
So it'll go through the county because once you all make the recommendation here in just a minute, we'll be responsible for subcontracting that work. And I do imagine that we will have some follow-up conversations with our selected subcontractors. So I'll take these questions, both Dan and Suzanne, the questions you have, back to those providers to learn a little bit more, and maybe at the May meeting or at the June meeting, having an update about what we've learned.
And I heard Mountain Care mentioned a couple times. Do we want to perhaps invite them for a quick presentation, or?
I would be interested in that because I know they were struggling a little bit, and I'm curious to see how they're making out.
Okay, well, comments and plenty of food for thought, and I appreciate Dan and Suzanne. Before I make before we make a decision on Mountain Care, I think we need to refocus back to the fiscal year 2024 funding decision. So Zach, can you put that on the screen and maybe make it small enough we can see the whole spreadsheet? We can see the whole spreadsheet, but we can't read the numbers. Thank you, Zach. Before we vote to approve or disapprove this allocation of funding, are there any final questions about the FY 2024 funding? Okay, hearing no further questions. Can I get a motion to approve this spreadsheet for funding?
Motion to approve?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Looks like it passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. This is a torturous process. And I'm already feeling bad that you'll have another email from us in a few days or a few weeks about more decisions. So moving right along on the agenda. What I would like for folks to look at before we get into discussions on the reallocation is, Zach, do you think you can put up the units of service?
Yeah, give me just 1 second to get to those.
Because we're at the point in the year where some folks have not spent all their money and some folks have overspent their money. And this is why I try to draw people's attention to the column on the HCCBG units of service provider report, to the column that says units served but not reimbursed. So you can see, if you look down, Meals on Wheels, and Zach has put it in a dark bolded number. They have prepared and provided 2,430 meals more than they would have allocated at this point. In addition, if you go down the column, it's Mountain Mobility, who's also provided more services. And then Pisgah Legal also. And I hate to do this to you, Zach, but can you jump over to the supplemental aging funds?
Yeah.
So what you can see here that the folks at On Track, which is financial counseling, has already spent all of their requested, all of their, I'm really sorry, I have spent 100% of all of their allotted funds. Whereas, Zach, can you just scroll down a little bit because we don't have the bottom, there we go. So the first column, that is Council on Aging. The second one is memory care. Third one is On Track. Next one is MAHEC, and then Blue Ridge Pride. So there are some folks, like I said, Meals on Wheels, Mountain Mobility, Pisca Legal, and Memory Care that have depleted their allocated funds. So when I look at these two spreadsheets, I then have to think about the request from both Council on Aging and Memory Care to either allocate within their organization or relinquish funding. So did people understand that spreadsheet, the reallocation spreadsheet for fiscal year 2023? Should we?
It was very confusing, so I apologize. And it's completely fine if you had follow-up questions from it.
Yeah. And my attempt to make it less confusing was the highlights. Excuse me. So Council on Aging indicated that they would relinquish $100,000 from in-home aid and then $2,323 from institutional respite. They would like to use part of that money for I&O and senior dining. Now that is a request. As the committee, we can either accept that and award that money, or we can say, no, there's other programs that really need it. And if you look at the units of service, you're kind of on target for those programs. So I'd like to get a little discussion about this and whether people are comfortable with the request from both of the providers, including Memory Care, Mountain Care and Council on Aging.
Susan, can I ask Zach to do one thing? Zach, after I sent this spreadsheet, if you'll scroll down, I heard from On Track, because On Track has spent all of their funds, and they did tell me what they would need to be able to continue through the rest of the year. And I just wanted to add that to the spreadsheet so everyone was aware. It's $12,546. So that little box right beside where it says On Track, that would be their requested amount. I did not send an email to Memory Care since they do still have funding available. But On Track, since they were at 100% spent, did ask what they would need throughout the end of the year.
I would have a question about increased funding for senior dining, and that would be, is that for people that are actually coming on site for a congregate meal or people that are just driving by and picking one up? Because I think the latter is, I wouldn't be as interested in something like that receiving more money rather than a service that's more essential.
Jen, do you know if they still have the pickup service?
I am not familiar. Zach may know the answer. I will say that when we look at the units of service, they are not at the allocation they should be for the spending that they should be. Their unit of service says that they're at 76% service. I guess they're right on target. They don't currently show any overspending in congregate nutrition. But Zach, do you know if they're still doing pickup?
I believe there is one site that is still doing pickups. They have a waiver with the Division of Aging on file, and that is for the Shiloh site. Other than that, I believe all of their sites are back in person, and all of those leniencies are getting, or actually I believe they've already come to an end. I believe April I can't remember the exact date, but sometime mid-April, all of the nutrition leniencies were ran out. So they should be back to normal for home and community care block grant funding. For ARPA funding that they received through us, it was written in their contract that those leniencies will extend until the end of ARPA funding in 2025. But for home and community care block grant funding, they should be back to normal.
Does that answer your question, Cindy?
Yes, thank you.
Now, I just had one comment, and I know that it's more complex than this, but this was when I looked at this, which I thought the spreadsheet actually made sense, and the yellowing of it did help me understand it better. But I was just, as that famous line from Casablanca, is that I was just shocked to see relinquishing $100,000 for in-home aid. And I know we've had lots of discussions about, the reasons, some of the reasons for that. But I came from a world where you didn't give back that kind of money. That's my response. I have no need to go further.
Appreciate your perspective, Dan. But we do have the money, or actually, we don't have the money. The agency is saying that they would relinquish that money, which is what, 102,000. So what are people thoughts? Do we shift them over to I&O and senior dining, or what?
Is there another provider who really does need more money for this fiscal year? Who could spend it in a jiffy?
Susan, do you mind if I share a little bit about what our historical process has been?
Yes, please.
And Zach, feel free to jump in here, but my understanding is historically we have looked at the units of service report and we've identified providers that have overspent, and we have then allocated those funds out at the end of the year. And I&O through Council on Aging has historically received some additional funding at the end of the year because it's non-unit based, and we know that they can just like take it, put it in their budget. I will say these funds are slightly different because these are county funds. So these are not ARMS funds. These are not the home and community care block funding. And the reason I state that is because any of the providers that the committee decides to allocate those funds to potentially will require new contracts. So like Mountain Mobility would require another contract, which is fine. I just want you all to know. And Council on Aging, we do not have a contract for I&O or senior dining with them. But if you made the decision to like give some money back to On Track, for example, who's overspent, that would just be added to their current standing contract. If you wanted to see about memory care, if they needed additional funding through the end of the year, those would be some comments. And then Pisgah Legal again is at almost 200% of their allocation, which means they have already spent all of their money at the end, probably by December. And so they could utilize some additional monies. It would require a new contract, but again, that is something Billy and I could work on if the committee should decide that's what they would like to do.
And Zach, help me, if I'm reading this correctly, Pisgah Legal has overspent by $38,185.
Yes. Yes.
And am I correct that the Council on Aging has spent 74% for I&O?
So information and options, this is a conversation that Jen and I have had before. Information and options counseling is just a 1/12 payment every month. So they will be on track regardless of how many information and option counseling sessions they offer or how much I&A they do, which is information and assistance. So it is just a 1/12 payment that gets paid out every month of their original allocation. So they will be reading as on track for information and options counseling.
Thank you.
Well, I do apologize. I'm not 100% today. So I'm trying to understand where the committee is on accepting Council on Aging's request. Do we say sure, or do we have other places we would want to put that money?
Now, let me ask this question. As I look at the relinquished money, and I'm sort of assuming here Mountain Care, that we would give the requested 9,500 to Mountain Care. So if you add up the rest, it totals 106,323. Is that,
Yep.
am I thinking correctly here? So
Yeah.
you know, it appears to me that even if we gave that 42,000 to Council on Aging, we would still have money left that we could give to both Pisgah Legal or Jewish Family Services, both overspent.
That makes sense.
Okay.
I agree.
Billy, do you have additional information about Council on Aging's request for senior dining? Because again, they are not showing overspent on their spreadsheet. So I'm a little unclear as to how they'll spend that additional $20,000. Do you happen to know? I'm trying to look through emails real quick.
No, I didn't get specifics on how they were going to spend the senior dining. They said so the one specific was if they got the $20,000, they'd move ARPA funding. That's all I was told.
Okay. I think I just found that the question was asked about are typically requesting reallocation from in-home aid to senior dining. Due to temporary ARPA funding and some recent changes in moving funds forward from year 3 to this one. So they're not requesting it, this most recent. I'm a little unclear. This was back in January, but I do think it has to do with their ARPA fund allocation. Thank you.
Yeah, they were going to move, if they got the 20,000, they were going to move the ARPA funding. That was my understanding.
Do we have to make this decision today?
We don't, but because we are going to have to create new contracts within the county, finance would like me to start moving on this. But if you all had some recommendations on what you would like to do with some of the money and some of it we were waiting on, that's fine too. And then I know you all can't see it, but I do just want to remind everyone that On Track is listed below at the bottom of that spreadsheet with that 12,546. Or let me get the exact number. 12,000, yeah, 546. So I just wanted to put that back out there. And again,
46, exactly.
I would recommend that we make the decision today. I just think these organizations need to know what kind of funding that they have as they close out their last quarter of the year. So I think if it's possible, we should make these decisions today. I don't know what other information we need.
Well, given that comment, Meg, what would be your recommendation? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Council on Aging is going through an executive director change, a lot of transition. I don't know if I would give them any additional money. I'm all for more meals, more legal help, more financial help in tried and true. I'm not that Council on Aging isn't tried and true. I don't mean, I did say it that way. I just feel like we shouldn't give it to Council on Aging.
I agree with that.
Hmm.
If we don't give it to Council on Aging, we're looking at Pisgah Legal, Jewish Family Services, On Track,
Memory care.
and Memory Care.
Where are you looking at for Jewish Family Services, Dan? At the bottom?
Yeah, yes, that's at 107%.
Okay.
I mean, and my criteria is just who is already either very close to overspending or having overspent.
Mhm.
Okay, let's break this down. So I think I'm hearing that the committee is saying Council on Aging should not be, I'm sorry. The committee will not be recommending that the Council on Aging's reallocation of the 42,000 funds go through. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right. All right, can we make a motion that that's agreed upon by the committee?
I
So-
motion, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just made, you requested a motion, I made it.
Okay. Somebody want to second the motion that we
Second.
not?
Second.
Okay, all in favor of not going through with the request from Council on Aging, raise your hand. Those opposed, let me know. Looks like unanimous decision. So now we have Mountain Care. Let's do it the same way. Do folks feel comfortable allowing Mountain Care to shift the 9,500 from transportation to day health?
I recommend that Mountain Care's request to reallocate their money to from group respite and transportation to day health. That's my recommendation.
Second.
My
So-
motion, sorry.
Okay. We have a motion and a second, just clarification. They are moving the 9,500.
Yes,
but
sorry,
relinquishing
9,500,
four-
yes.
okay, but leaving the 4,000. So, all in favor of the motion to allocate the 95 to day health? Do I have all of those approved? Anybody object? No. Okay. All right, folks, we now have we're running out of time. So it's roughly the 100,000, the 2,323, and the 4,000. So basically $106,000.
And why isn't Meals on Wheels on that list? They didn't request more funding?
They should be, honestly. That's what I was just looking at, the provider list of what overspent. And so they should have been listed. So one suggestion, keeping in mind of time, and also Meg, your comment about going ahead and making recommendations, is I could put together a spreadsheet that shows what the allocation, if we just considered it, if the committee decided to just consider it based on who was overspent, what that allocation would be to each provider, and we could work on that if that's what the committee wanted to approve, like do a percentage wise and split it out based on who was overspent.
That would be really helpful to
Yeah.
see, I think.
And then we would vote on it via email?
Can we vote on it via email, Jen?
I wonder if you could make the recommendation today that will be that would be what you would like to do is move forward. And then the email will follow up to show you where that allocation actually is. I don't know whether or not you can vote via email.
I don't know about that.
I believe when we put together bylaws, there was something in there that allowed electronic voting. Now, I could have that confused with my homeowners association.
I think I can quickly do this actually. Zach, on the units of service where Meals on Wheels is provided and it says units served but not reimbursed, and then it's net unearned or unpaid and it's 37,043. Is that the amount that they are yet to be reimbursed for?
So that is, yes, that is the amount so far this year that they have yet to be reimbursed for. They're not at 100% spent yet, but they are at 89%. So they are well above projection at the 75% of what they should be.
Okay. $12,546.
Yeah, I don't mind spending another 10 or 15 minutes with y'all if we
Yeah,
can make
let's get
the
it
decision
done.
right now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's, thanks for saying that, Meg. I appreciate that. So yeah. if we
Hey,
can
it's
do-
my last meeting. I'm gonna make us all stay late.
Okay. I think this will be done in just a second.
No pressure, Jen, no pressure.
And so this one is medical. Zach, will you look at Pisgah Legal for me? It appears to me that it's only listed at 38,185, but is that correct?
One second here. No, actually.
What is it that?
They should be, essentially they're overspent by $16,461 at the moment.
Oh,
How do you, where?
That might be a issue with my formula on my sheet.
Okay, so it's 16. Will you tell me that number one more time?
Yeah, 16,461.
16,461. Okay. So if every single provider were allocated right now with the max that they are over, we don't have enough money to meet that. But one thing we have historically done, and the committee can decide whether or not to do this, is transportation has kind of been our like catch-all at the end of the year. You could make the decision to allocate $37,000 to Meals on Wheels, $16,000 to Pisgah Legal, the $12,000 to On Track, and $3,500 to JFS, and then any remaining at this point, and any remaining that comes in at the end of the year to go to transportation. That would be an option should the committee want to do that. I can pull this up in a spreadsheet if this would be helpful for you to see.
Yes, it would be. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. Zach, can I share my screen?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Let's see. Well, I don't, oh, here it is in the big green button at the bottom. Sorry. It's not available to me.
Well, while she's pulling that up, I don't know. What do y'all think about Jen's suggestion and holding off and on mountain mobility? I like it. I'll just say.
Me
Works
too.
for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
yep, I agree.
Can you all see this spreadsheet now?
Mhm.
Okay.
So this is the relinquished funds here. These are the amounts based on what people are overspent as of today. I mean, that can change at any given time, but it would allow these providers to be caught back up. And so this would be the total that is needed, which is why I was saying that we don't have enough if we consider transportation's budget. If we move this out, let me just put this here really fast. You have $69,625 that could be allocated to Meals on Wheels, Pisgah Legal, On Track, and JFS. And then whatever is remaining, so $36,698 could be allocated to transportation. And then any additional funding that is left in May or June that needs to be allocated could also go to transportation, because you already know that they're overspent and could utilize like $200,000.
I think it's a great way that, we're meeting the needs that are obviously out there. I mean, you've got these 4 or 5 agencies who are spending all the money and they need it. The need's there. People are using it. That's where, in my opinion, how we should allocate the funds.
And Jim,
Makes a lot of sense.
I'll make one correction. The Meals on Wheels, that 3743, they have not exceeded their allocation for FY23 yet. That is what they have left to be reimbursed for the year, and then they will begin exceeding their allocation. They're only at 89% spent, so their unreimbursed units is $18,148. But that's only because they've exceeded the 112 allocation. If they serve less meals in the following months leading up to the end of FY23, they may meet their goal. It just depends on their performance. If they continue to or if they continue to meet their goal and exceed it, then is when they will probably need more funding. But as of right now, they've not exceeded their original allocation yet.
They're at 89% spent, and 75% is where they should be right now. So they're on track to probably overspend.
Yeah.
So that would be something
Right.
that we need to consider.
So let me make sure I understand. Is the 18,148 in addition to what they will get?
No, it is what they would get. So right now they're over. It gets really tricky because of the 1/12th allocation. So if we were closing books today, they would be short $18,000 because that's what they've already spent but haven't been reimbursed for.
Got it. Okay. I got it. But we're not giving them anything extra.
That would be the recommendation, is that you take 18,148 from the 106,000 to make them whole. But it's possible that they won't overspend. You could wait on Meals on Wheels too. You know that Pisgah Legal, On Track, and JFS are overspent. So you all may decide that you want to pull Meals on Wheels out of here as well until you see the final, and then just allocate these amounts out for now, because these providers are all overspent.
Well, I think we should prioritize the folks who are overspent because they clearly need the money now.
I agree.
That makes sense.
And so, next month, the decision based on units of service, then you've got this money left, and then you can allocate it to whoever needs it.
Correct.
Okay.
So for the reallocation of the 106,323 from Council on Aging will be awarded to Pisgah Legal, On Track, and Jewish Family Services as at the amounts shown on the screen.
Okay.
I move. Okay.
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
And then am I correct that the 73,741 is still available in the coming months?
Yes.
Okay. So
And we
if you could just include Meals on Wheels. Yeah, you did. Meals on Wheels, you did. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah. And we'll also find out for sure. Let me fix my spreadsheet here. We will talk with all of our providers to ensure there's not others that need this additional funding between now and next time as well, and come back to you all.
Good enough.
Okay, Meg, I'm gonna miss you.
I miss y'all too.
You've been a great contributor. We really
Oh, thanks. It's
appreciate
been fun. I've enjoyed it, and good luck to all of you in your future decisions. You're doing a great job.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Very good. Okay, it is 4:40. I'll see you guys, May 24th at 3:30.
Feel better, Susan. Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Feel better.
Thank you
Bye.
all.
Bye.
Thank you.